Hi and welcome everybody. My name is Kirsten DeLeo. Welcome from foggy San Francisco. I'm really delighted to have Youske Eto from Portland, Oregon here with us. Youske, you are a good friend, long-time clinician, social worker in hospice up in Portland, and you're also a practitioner. So I'm really glad we have a chance to engage, and I hope it's a very fruitful pithy conversation now as we look at integrating, applying mindfulness and awareness at the end of life. So Youske, so for people to get you know a little bit better, what actually inspired you to enter the field of not only social work, but also hospice and palliative care?
Yeah, so hopefully it won't be too long of a story, but in college, I study international development, and as a young, good-hearted, but also maybe a little bit naive person, I wanted to make a difference, So I joined the Peace Corps for 2 years. I was in Ghana, West Africa, and I love my experience there. It was a wonderful experience. But if I stayed in that field, I knew that I would have to end up getting a desk job, and I actually wanted to work there directly with people. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I had a chance after Peace Corps to travel around for 9 months in Southeast Asia and then East Asia. And I ended up in Calcutta in India. And so I volunteered for a few months for Missionaries of Charity, the Mother Teresa's group. And, as I saw these, religious sisters and brothers really living amongst and really caring for the, the people, the poorest of the poor, I really saw the impact that they had, on them. And I realized that actually at that point, that, with international development, I was trying to make an impact in the outer environment, whether it's social, economic, or natural environment or political environment, what have you. But when I saw that, the impact that they had on the people that they served, I realized that the inner environment is as important, if not more important, for people's happiness. So I wanted to have a work, do a job that had that aspect to it. So I still wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I went to Japan to visit my parents, and I saw a TV program of an abbot of a monastery who was also a cancer doctor. And he opened a nursing home in his hometown, and with the wish that people will rehabilitate and go back to their homes, to the community. But that wasn't happening with some of the people, and people were not. People are dying, and he was talking about the need for healing when the medicine is no longer able to help them. So he was trying to use the teaching of the Buddha, to help those who are Buddhists, and bringing in priests or ministers for those who are Christians. There are a minority of Christians in Japan as well. So he was trying to minister them that way and talking about need for end-of-life care and hospice care. So when I saw that, I said, oh, hospice, that sounds amazing, So when I came back to the States, I started volunteering for hospice, and I just loved it. I lived in New York City, and those 4 hours a week that I volunteered for hospice was like a haven in the midst of crazy life in New York City, So I decided that I wanted to work for hospice. And social work really was a perfect fit for me because it was a combination of both affecting the outer and the inner environment. So that's how I came to social work, and particularly hospice. And I got my MSW knowing that I was going to do hospice. So I was very determined. Yeah.
This is a beautiful path you're describing here. So based on your this experience, really the motivation of bringing in the inner and the outer, so really integrating them in the deepest sense possible and supporting people, being socially engaged, what has really helped you in terms of your own contemplative practice? Now, what are some of the tips you can share with people working on the front lines, at the front lines with people at the end of life?
Well, for me, in talking about the inner environment, right? I mean, that was a perfect fit for me to actually go into the contemplative practice and the approach. That has really helped me tremendously. It's really about, this work is not really about like what we say or even do, but really how we are. That has the greatest impact, And so to be able to really focus on developing, that presence, and actually working with myself, with my own inner environment, which actually has the greatest impact in terms of when I'm with other people. So that was a perfect fit for me. And as I practiced this approach, I think, I'll tell you a story of, it was probably about 2 years into my training in the contemplative approach and also as a hospice social worker, where I actually saw the tremendous power, that this approach has, from my own personal experience, is that there was this, a patient I had, was in his probably mid-40s, he was on hospice, he was dying. I think he had liver cancer or some kind of liver disease. And he had a really hard life. He had long history of drug and alcohol abuse and even homelessness. And so my first visit with him, I felt like it went well, made good connection. And then it was my second visit, and he lived in a nursing home, and he had no family. He had absolutely no family contact. So he was absolutely alone, And so when I visited him this second time, he was in a horrible mood. He was really not happy, And he started immediately as soon as I came in, he started complaining about the nursing home, the staff there, and he even started complaining about the hospice nurse, And fortunately for him, I had a really good practice in the morning.
So you practice in the morning. Yeah, that's kind of good.
Yeah, that's one thing I've really relied on over the years. I practice meditation every day in the morning and evening, and that served me tremendously well. And then on top of that, on my way home, on my way to the nursing home to see him, I was listening to a teaching on compassion. And so when I went to see him, I felt very, very grounded, And so when he started complaining, I didn't respond really. I just listened, and with curiosity. I knew that this was not personal. He's even started, I think, complaining about me, but I didn't take it personally at all, fortunately. And I just listened, and he went on and on for probably 20 minutes or so, or even more. And as I just sat there and listened, with my heart open, trying to understand him, to his great credit, he actually realized what he was doing, and he said to me, I know you're a really nice guy, and this is not really fair to you. I'm just, bitching at you, and he actually apologized to me. He said, I realized I was, in a bad mood, and this was not fair to you. I won't do that again. So I just looked at him and kind of smiled and said, it doesn't matter. And I think he understood what I meant. That it doesn't matter how you are. I'm here for you. And he was shocked by that response. I could see in his face, and he looked at me and started crying, and I didn't say anything, really. I didn't do anything. I just sat there being present with him, with his suffering. And, I knew he had a really hard life, and I don't know if he ever felt accepted for who he is, or how he was being, and, I don't know, but maybe this was first time he felt like, he can be himself. And even through, the rest of the visit, I really didn't say much, and maybe just, gave him a hug and left, but that visit, I really kind of understood, how important, that was, and the power that it had by just being present, So, I'm really happy for you, for those who are attending this course, because this approach has been such a gift to me. And, I've learned so many different modalities and therapeutic approaches, etc. But the foundation, the ground of all my clinical practice is this, is this contemplative practice, is learning how to be present. Because without knowing that, you cannot use any of those other approaches effectively.
So, can I just say what you're saying, the link between your professional skills and the contemplative skills, they're equally important and really enhance each other, isn't it? And I just want to highlight some of the beautiful things you said in the story, and the power of through your preparation, through your daily preparation, getting ready for the day, you prepared the container for somebody else, isn't it? But life is messy, and we don't always have the luxury or also the discipline, if you're honest, to practice. So what helps you on the spot to remember, to bring your mind back, to stay centered, to be open, and to also mindful of what's happening for yourself, what's happening, be aware of what's happening outside, and to be effective in your decision of what route to take in order to help and serve this person in front of you. So,
yes. Well, a huge aspect of that is letting go of my agenda, and that takes a while, because as a new hospice social worker, you have so many things that you have to learn, and things that kind of a checklist that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So after you have had enough experience with that, you can actually let go of that, and then just kind of show up, without those agenda in the forefront in your mind, like, oh my God, I have to do all this, And so it comes with experience, I think, also, But yeah, the ability to kind of let go of my worry about my performance,
Mm-hmm.
or even how I'm coming across, but just kind of be natural and be able to relax. And so, like I said, that comes with experience, and I think also the kind of the daily practice of, unfortunately, discipline comes fairly easy for me. As I'm a Japanese.
So I'm asking the wrong person here,
But also, I don't know, the spiritual practice. I have kind of I've always had this passion of wanting to know the truth, and I've learned to look for that within, rather than outside. So that sense of passion actually helps me to put my, butt on the cushion, and the curiosity. I think curiosity is so helpful, in terms of about myself and of the other person, who's in front of me.
So what I heard you say is kind of curiosity, discipline, just to do it regardless, isn't it? And just to do it regularly, to be prepared on the spot, you can respond, isn't it? And
and then let go.
Together,
yeah.
And in terms of your environment, how, I guess because of your cultural heritage and background, people know you're probably a practitioner, or you have some contemplative mindfulness practice. How is being perceived in your community in your hospice among your team?
Our team, I feel, is very receptive and open. I feel very fortunate to work for kind of a smaller nonprofit hospice, and we have a wonderful leadership that's supportive. So, we have wonderful team members who are very open and receptive to me, and I'm quite open actually. And perhaps it's easier for me actually as a Japanese. I've heard of another hospice nurse, actually, I'm a social worker, but who is a Buddhist, and she felt like she couldn't be as open with some others. And I think it also could depend on, not only the team members that you have, but also, where you are in the country too. I'm here in Portland, Oregon, very progressive, town, city. I was at Southern Oregon, and some people are very open, but there are some who are much more conservative, and with that kind of population, it could be difficult to be as open.
You have to be mindful where you are, isn't it? And aware and skillful, and it's not about telling people this is what I'm doing. It informs your own practice and way of being, isn't it? So, that's the whole thrust of contemplative care. It's not teaching these practices to others, isn't it? I'm curious because you've been a social worker for many years now. There's a high rate of burnout. The demands are ever increasing. It doesn't seem to get any better, especially now. What has helped you? Is there a specific practice that has helped you to stay motivated? Anything that really helped you to kept your heart open to the world?
Very good question. never actually personally felt burnout. Actually, and maybe a little bit with, like documentation. And when I work with a hospice, whose leadership wasn't very supportive, then there's the stress that comes with that, and some sense of burnout. But clinically, and I really attributed this to the contemplative practice and my own spiritual practice.
Was there a specific practice that has helped you? You kind of fall back onto when you feel like, oops, I need some space for myself, or
So for the key for me is actually connecting with the kind of love that is far, far bigger than myself. Actually, when I was in Calcutta, I read some of Mother Teresa's teachings, and there she said, the purpose of life is to become selfless, so that the light of God can shine through you without obstruction. And as a Buddhist, I might say my interpretation of that would be, the purpose of life is to be selfless, so that the pure nature, or what Buddhists call Buddha nature, can shine through us without obstruction. And to me, that's helped me tremendously. Not only that it keeps us humble, to become selfless, but also it connects us to that kind of love, that's way, way bigger than ourselves. And our job is to allow that to come through us, And for me, the practice, all the compassion practices of loving kindness and also Tonglen for me is very, very helpful. And to me, that's really key, connecting with that kind of love. And because when we do that, not only that it kind of empowers our compassion, but also we feel tremendously nurtured by that,
So Youske, as you go through your day, from this, you have this you kind of very beautifully express this big view, this fueled by love and compassion, and to fall back into it, is to being embraced by it and held by it. So as you go through your day, because the exercise or one of the reflection this week is to really walk through your day and see, okay, here are the points where I can reconnect with contemplative practice. I can reconnect with my motivation, with my compassionate attitude, with a sense of spaciousness. So what has been for you in your daily work as you see patients, walk down the hallways, maybe sit in your car, wherever you are, to remember?
Yeah. So I'm in my car a lot, so I use that. It's very helpful tool for me before I actually walk out of my car, to just sit for a little bit and kind of remember my motivation. And also when I come back into my car, if I felt like the visit went very well, and I was able to be of benefit, then I try to dedicate that. If I feel like maybe I wasn't as effective, or maybe I was a bit distracted, or even made a mistake or something, then to be actually take that time, a little bit of time in my car, to just kind of be understanding to myself, and to be compassionate, almost like, oh, it's okay, have compassion. you know, and try to do better next time, or try to remember that, you know. So yeah, so I really appreciate that time in my car, you know, to be able to reflect that way, and kind of, and sometimes also while I'm driving, you know, I could listen to, you know, some of the teachings, etc., you know, to kind of help ground me. So those are some of the tools I use.
Yes, these spaces in between I find always invaluable, you know, from one, and they're not just in between, they're actually it, isn't it? And to use them really skillfully. So I use usually when I walk from one room to the next, you know, just to ground myself. So yeah, the car, there are multiple, plenty rich opportunities, aren't they? Yeah. So as we conclude, because you beautifully described the importance of good at the end, you know, which is part of the three goods. How do we conclude well? We don't rush off to the next thing and drop what we've been doing. And so as we conclude the course, what is the one hard advice from your own practice, from your own work, you find you would like to pass on to others now embarking or continuing on this path?
Well, I think I think I've given that already, and that's really connect from that place of love that's bigger than yourself, you know, to actually really nurture you and to grow in that, you know, and then, and it really helps in terms of self-care, you know. It's hard work that we do, you know, and we deserve that kind of care and love from ourselves, you know. So yeah, to continue to connect with that, and you know, the more we do that, you know, then I think more we can let go and be kind of at ease and comfortable, you know, when we are with patients, and you know, with ourselves too. So yeah.
Thank you, Youske.
My pleasure.
Be well.
Thank you. And, you know, also thank you guys for all that you do. And I'm really excited that you're on this path. So thank you.